Coke 600, Charlotte. We should have a pretty good race. A lot of storylines to talk about here. Let's just get right into this, guys. Let's do it. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Sterling and Ryan. Sterling, Ryan, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? We had an interesting all-star race last week. Well, not the race, but what happened after the race. That was awesome. So, real quick, we got to talk about this a little bit. What were your guys' thoughts on that? I thought it was amazing. I loved it. Some of the memes that are coming out of this are awesome. What are your thoughts on, the race overall and, the fine and NASCAR promoting the hell out of it, them making money off of it, and then finding the shit out of him?
I loved seeing Kyle Busch get punched in the face, but the race sucked. The fight was, I don't really want to call it a fight, but I loved seeing that, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The race was terrible, but yeah, the fine them $75,000 and get all the publicity they're getting is kind of crappy, but at the same time, I get it. They were around all kinds of pit equipment and stuff like that. Like, somebody could have got hurt falling over them tires and everything like that. So I feel like NASCAR felt like they had to do something, but at the same time, it kind of makes the sport, I don't know, bigger than what it is normally.
I think we need more of it.
We do. We need more drama. Like, don't make it WWE, but like it's something, need some controversy.
Yeah, I did. I kind of like Kyle Busch, but seeing him get smacked around a little bit and just the look on his face as he's trying to push back against an old man. It was just hilarious. The whole thing was hilarious. I'm so glad I was watching that live. All right, so let's move on to this race. So this
real quick, that Jason White or whatever his name was, the Kyle Busch crew member that came in and like threw everybody around.
Big motherfucker.
I think the Steelers need to look at him as an offensive lineman or something.
Yeah, that was the one thing I took away from that was that dude is huge. I would not mess with that guy.
I wouldn't have wanted to mess with him. Everybody's like, "Ooh, I'm getting out of here." But yeah, sorry to cut you off. I just had to throw that in there.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because that was that was a memorable moment of that fight or scuffle, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's talk about this particular race, this track. So what's our strategy here? Like, is this is a really long race? So are we more likely to embrace some of these guys starting at the back, more opportunities to make it up front? What are the wrecks like in this? Is this a crazy situation where there's going to be a lot of passing? Can guys get from the back, get up front real quick? Like, what are your thoughts on that? What are our thoughts on our overall strategy for this race?
Yeah. Unfortunately, qualifying kind of played it where you're going to have to play a lot of place differential. I think just a lot of these good guys are starting in the back. Really, there's not many good plays in the top 5 or 10. Do you agree with that, Sterling?
If you stretch that to like the top 12, I like that.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a decent amount of good plays inside the top 12.
Yeah, but as far as like guys in the back, like there's a lot of place differential. Unfortunately, even you could even argue like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, they're starting 10th and 11th. Then you got like Brad K starting 30th. You got Buescher starting 39th. You got Blaney starting like 16th. Eric Jones. Yeah, Eric Jones starting 34th. It's just, but yeah, it is a long race, so you're gonna have these guys. The good cars are gonna come to the front eventually. So,
yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly gonna play probably 4 guys inside the top 12.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
So we're banking.
I like the Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Truex. Yeah, I could see that.
So this is 4 stages. Obviously, that could change the strategy a little bit for us as far as like some of these guys are going to get out front and they're just going to stay out front for a bit. In theory, right? Is this a situation where we need to get a couple dominators because there's just no way to overcome. If Ty Gibbs is out there and is leading the whole stage one and then he falls back, he's still probably going to be an optimal guy, right?
Yeah, I was looking at Sterling's optimal lineups and his write-up. He had the past optimal lineups, and there's a lot of dominator points that went around the past couple of years. And going back to your question about the cautions, I don't think this is really a big caution type track. It's a pretty clean pretty clean race.
Yeah, and their two next gen races, there was 83 and 90 caution laps, but that's like a lot compared to the previous 8. The previous 8 races, there's been less than an average of 50. It was like 47 caution laps per race. But a lot of those were around like 20 to 25. So I don't think we see a whole lot of cautions besides the stage cautions.
So,
but yeah, I mean, going to his optimals, like I said, there's a bunch of looks like a bunch of dominator points in basically everyone. So, like, I think we were talking in the Discord. It's like there's always like one big, guy that leads 150 or so laps, and then there's a couple that lead like 50-ish. So,
speaking of Discord, if you guys want to jump in the free Discord, the Dynasty DNA Discord, make sure you're in there. There's a lot of smart dudes in there talking, chatting it up. Saw one guy with 2 million crowns in there. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, that's free, guys. Jump in there. Obviously, you guys will get Sterling's breakdown that he posts in there for free as well. Make sure you get on that before it's not free anymore. Chase Elliott at 5 here. He won the Xfinity race last night, right?
Yeah.
So does that change your opinion on anything? I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Or does it?
I mean, I think a little bit. I don't think I'm still going to be, I don't know, over the field on them or anything, in my opinion. I think these cars race a little different now. I mean, he is going to see kind of how the track changes, and he's going to have a little bit of a heads up there. But, I mean, it changes a little bit, but not as much as it used to back in the day. What do you think, Sterling?
Yeah, I think if this was still the old car,
yeah,
I think it would mean a lot more than it does. But these two cars are completely different. They don't handle anything alike. And I mean, track time is track time, but it's going to be different braking points and such. So I think it helps a little bit, but not as much as it used to.
All right, so obviously we got to talk about Kyle Larson here and the situation that he's going through. He's starting in the top 10. He's got the Indy 500 earlier in the day. That could rain out potentially, right? Like, what are you guys seeing on that? And what does that actually mean for us DFS wise? Because typically, if he didn't have another race going, you got Kyle Larson in the top 10. I'm not going to be afraid to jam him in like a madman. But is there any risk? Like, that's a lot to do in one day. So does that make you like more cautious to go as much exposure on him as you typically would on a normal day where he's not racing 2 races?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think so. Like we were talking pre-show, it was like Kurt Busch did this back in the day, and Tony Stewart did it back in the day, and I would think Robbie Gordon, and I would think Kyle Larson would be in the best shape out of all them guys.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So, and these cars have gotten a lot easier to drive as far as the Cup cars. I don't know anything about the Indy cars. I can't speak for them, but I mean, back in the day, these Cup cars, these drivers would get out of a race and they'd be sweaty and they'd be like out of breath. You'd see sometimes they'd have to get IVs. Like, they actually had to drive these cars a little bit. Nowadays they get out and they don't even have a sweat dripping down their face or anything. They just get out and look like, but yeah, I don't really think it really matters. What do you think, Sterling?
I don't think. No. I mean, he'll probably get a shower, have an IV, eat something between races on the flight. Like, he's going to get into this car just like he does any other day. I mean, he's going to have potentially 500 miles in before that, but it's just going to be like any other day, I think.
All right. Now let's get into this breakdown. Unless you guys have anything else to add, we're going to go down the list from up top to the very back, and we're going to look at Sterling's breakdown as well. You guys got anything else to add before we move on?
Nope. Let's do it.
All right. Break it down. All right, so Ty Gibbs starting up front. He's 8,300. Now, should we not overthink this? Like, is there a reason why you'd go, you know what, screw this, I'm going to be under the field on Ty Gibbs? Or is this almost a free square? I know it's racing, so there is no free squares. But when it comes to, we got to take a stand on guys. You know, this is probably a race where you're okay to get a ton of exposure on a couple guys. Am I correct about that? And so, like, why not embrace Ty Gibbs, right?
Yeah. At first, I did message Sterling. I was like, after I saw Ty Gibbs got the pole, I was like, man, this makes it tough. Like, Ty Gibbs is 8,300. What the hell do we do with him? And Sterling basically was like, don't overthink this. Like, he's 8,300 and he starts on the pole. Like, he doesn't have to do much to get value. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And he did look pretty good in practice.
Yeah, and he ran the Xfinity race as well. Looked decent, not as good as he should have, but I think that helps him a little bit in the same sense as Chaser. It's not the same as it used to be, but it's still track time. But I mean, he's due for a win. He hasn't got that first cup win yet, and it's just, I think it's coming today, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of got momentum coming. He finished second at Darlington, and then he won the Open too. So,
and going back, since you brought up Darlington, I want to hit on the fact that they ran both of these tire codes, left and right side, at Darlington. So I think looking back at Darlington is going to be a good thing to do as you build today's lineups.
good point.
So who else up here are you interested in? Now, Sterling, you're talking about in the top 12, you're interested in getting to a handful of these guys in your lineups. Who, like, we can obviously talk about guys we like, but who are just dudes that you're just not going to play in this top 12? There's got to be probably a couple, right?
Yeah, it's honestly, pricing makes it a little bit tough for this top 12 here. I mean, Michael McDowell, that's one guy that I don't have any interest in. But outside of that, I kind of like a little bit of everybody in this range. Christopher Bell, he'll be pretty much unknown, if not.
I was gonna say Chris Bell is a guy that I'm out on.
Alex Bowman, he scares me, but at 7.8, he doesn't have to do anything crazy. He's gonna be pretty much unknown, I would imagine. Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick. We kind of talked pre-show about Tyler Reddick, and he's at 9.7. It's tough, but I do think he gets inside that top 10 at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised if he still gets up there and he becomes one of these main dominators. I'm not playing for that, but I also kind of think it does happen.
Yeah. What did his practices look like? I feel like he was fast in practice.
So for those of you guys who don't know, Reddick, he's being scored from 8th, but he's back of the field. So in a shorter race, we might be like, all right, I'm not playing that guy at all. And I think his ownership is probably going to come in pretty low. I know it's between 15 to 20% projected right now, but once people start to realize that he's at the back, maybe his ownership dips below 10%, and on a race like this, he's probably going to make it up back there. Like, that's what you guys are saying. So to me, Tyler Reddick is a good GPP play potentially. Go ahead with the practice stuff.
Yeah, it looked like he had a decent practice. It looked like he started out real good and then was kind of ran about 10, 15-ish, and then kind of got a little bit faster. But so he's got to start in the back, and he has to pass through penalty down pit road. So he's got to go down pit road at 45 or 55, whatever the speed limit is down there. So he is probably going to go a lap down right from the get-go. But like we were talking, I mean, we know there's a stage 1 caution at lap 100. So more than likely he will get the free pass at that point unless something fluke happens. And then he's going to be on the lead lap for stage 2. And he should, like Sterling said, get up there. So that's depending on how you want to play. I know I was listening to I just searched YouTube last night and I was watching a YouTube video on DFS, and the guy was like, yeah, I'm out on him. And then that's what made me think like maybe I should be in on him. But
I think he probably does come in lesser owned than he should, given the amount of laps we have. But he also lost his pit stall selection, and I'm looking at that here now, and I'm actually really surprised that he ended up with what I think is a great pit stall, actually. He's right in the middle, but he's between JJ Yeley and Ty Dillon, two cars that should be laps down. So he's going to be able to pull into his pit pretty much wide open.
Yeah, those are going to be like probably two of the worst cars today. The JJ Yeley and Ty Dillon.
They're actually two cars that I'm worried won't even make it to the end.
Yeah, they probably won't. So, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for him getting the last pit stall selection, he actually kind of lucked out.
Yeah, he hit the lottery on that one, actually.
Yeah.
You guys are convincing me to play more Tyler Reddick.
I'm telling you, I think I'm high on him. He might be one of my.
I think he is a fucking awesome GPP play.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, if anybody that does cash, I don't know if I'm there on cash, but GPP, I'm there.
If you play him in cash, you need to just quit playing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, Sterling, if you're making groups for this top 12, this is kind of what we determined is kind of the, what we're looking at for the dominators potentially is what do you said, what, 2 to 3 or more than that? What if you're making groups for this, what are you doing?
I probably 2 to 3. Yeah. Like I'm going to have a ton of Gibbs, Larson, Hamlin. And then I could see a group in like Larson, Hamlin, Byron, and maybe Truex together and setting that at like 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3. And then take Gibbs, Chastain, Bowman. Probably just those 3 and set that at like 1 to 2.
Yeah, because Gibbs by default, we're just going to get a ton of him if we're not, if we're not setting any groups. So outside of Gibbs, it's almost like, semi free square in our opinion. But besides that, if we make separate groups, maybe without Gibbs potentially, and try to get some of these other guys in there. Anybody else to talk about here in this top 12 group, and then we'll start to move down.
Yeah, I don't think. I really like. I
do want to hit on Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace, okay. So. I was gonna say Truex. Truex is a guy that, like, I know Sterling can contest this. He's actually the one that pointed this out to me actually years ago. Truex always seems to run great at night / cold weather. Just the more grip in the tires. He just always seems to run good when there's a lot of grip. So he's a guy that I think I'm going to be higher on than, 30%? It was projected ownership. Yeah. I might be a little bit higher than that just because, like I said, this is a kind of race that he does run good in.
Yeah, that's the only thing about Truex. His practice times were kind of all over the place, but he's got good career stats here. What did he do in the next gen? He finished third last season and 12th in the first next gen race here.
Yeah, he's got 3 wins here, 8 top 5. So yeah, he knows how to get around here. For 95,
it's 95. I think it's too cheap for him actually.
Mm-hmm.
What's his pit stall like?
19.
So he has nothing in front of him, and then he's got Josh Berry pitted right before him, so he should actually have clean ins and outs on pit road.
But yeah, that's a guy. Like I said, and then what'd you say, Bubba Wallace?
Yeah, his pit stall. He doesn't have anybody in front of him, but he's got Todd Gillen in front of him, or is that Zane Smith?
That's Zane Smith.
And then his practice is why I want to talk about Bubba Wallace. He had the 2nd best practice speed, the 6th best average, and he was in Group A. So that Group A was a little bit slower than Group B. So that makes me think that Bubba Wallace actually has a fucking rocket. And he actually had the 2nd best 5-lap average. So 77.
I lied. That is Gillen.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, Bubba Wallace, he just showed pretty good fucking speed in practice, and then he's got a nice pit stall. So
feels like
77. I like him.
It feels like Bubba's been massively unlucky, or you can call it unluck, or unluckiness, or just bad driving, whatever you want to call it. But it feels like he's just been running bad lately, right? Is this a race maybe he can he can recover a bit?
Yeah, he somewhat turned that around last week at the All-Star race, but I don't know if you really want to factor any of that stuff in last week.
All right, let's move on here. Let's get, outside the top 12. Kyle Busch 8K, Blaney 10.3, Josh Berry 7,100, Suarez 7K. Anyways, there's a lot of the pricing in this area. We're gonna have to get some of these dudes probably. So, what are your thoughts? Austin Syndrome 17th. There's a lot of dudes down here. What are we doing here? What about Rocky Stenhouse at 6,600? What do we think here?
I was talking to Sterling last night, and I love Kyle Busch at 8,000. Like his practice times were fast. He just missed that top 10 cutoff for qualifying. So, but they were fast of what you sent me. Oh yeah. And then does he have a good pit stall? Yeah, 77 and 84. So, Carson Hocevar and Jimmy Johnson, but yeah, he looked like he had a rocket ship, and I was kind of like talking to my dad, and like he's a big RCR fan too, and he was like, yeah, I was like, maybe this will be like baseball, where like, sometimes a bench clearing brawl kind of fires your team up a little bit, and him saying his team's kind of ass. I mean, he kind of said that his team's ass during the fight, so.
Then he pretty much said that during practice yesterday.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for rebound. I think this is the race that Kyle Busch can rebound, and 8,000 for Kyle Busch is pretty cheap.
Yeah, if he gets like a 12th place, he pretty much hits value. 10th place, he crushes.
Yeah, and I definitely next gen results. He's finished 6th and 2nd here, so this is a track he gets around good at.
So before we move on, I did want to ask you guys. What are you comfortable with, like, as a cap exposure? Like, are you getting to 90% some of these dudes who are just smash plays? Is this a race where we can embrace just opening up our top end on exposure? Or is this like you want to play a little bit more cautious? It doesn't seem like we need to play super cautious. We could take stands on this race, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. What do you think, Sterling?
Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to play like 70-80% somebody.
Yeah.
And if you really want to, you can go 100%. I do that quite often, actually.
Yeah. I might go that 70% on Ty Gibbs. I'm trying to think anybody else I really.
Busher.
Busher. Yeah, Busher is like I think will be a free spot. I know Darlington. It wasn't Noah Gregson. I went completely 100% on, but
yeah, Busher's projected for right around 50%. But I honestly think that's one you either don't play him and hope he wrecks, or you just play him in every lineup.
Yeah, and then anybody else in that range you want to talk about, Sterling? What was it? There's Blaney in that range.
Yes, I was gonna say we got to hit on Blaney. He won this race last season. He was good in practice. What did he do there? Previous year in the next gen. He 29. So
something must have happened.
Yeah. Pit stall. He's got a pretty decent pit stall. Can't think who 43 is that. Eric Jones.
Yeah.
He'll be in front of him, and then he's got
Timmy Hill.
It's actually BJ McLeod. He's in
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he should be able to get in and out of pit road pretty clean. His pit crew's been better than they were, but I think Blaney is a top 5 car and potential to dominate the race. He would be somebody I would add to that, like William Byron, Hamlin, Larson, Truex into that group and have them at like 2 to 3.
Any value dudes in this range? And another thing too is, more importantly, who are you just unchecking? Like I particularly, like, I usually don't uncheck a lot of dudes because I'm doing like 220, 240 lines, mini max and all the 20 maxes. I need to get better with just like making my player pool a little bit smaller. So the more important question is, who are you just unchecking? And you're just like, dude, this guy's got no shot.
I would say Austin Cindric's the one that really sticks out to me there. Probably Daniel Suarez. His cars they've been terrible all year outside of Atlanta. I think they showed a stat. He's only finished in the top 22, like one other race other than Atlanta.
Yeah, the thing that scares me about Suarez is his practice was actually pretty pretty damn nice, actually. But
Oh, okay.
he's got 9 career starts, only 5 top 20s, 1 top 10, and in the 2 next 2 next gen races, he finished 23rd and 25th. So Suarez, I mean, I'm not gonna play him, but if you're playing 220 lineups or whatever, I wouldn't mind having a little bit of him. Cindric, I definitely agree with not playing. Josh Berry is somebody that I am very confused on. I think I'm seeing him around 4%. I think he would be a great play to play like 12 to 15%. He had good practice. It's a tire wear track. He's great when it comes to this tire wear type of shit. So they haven't been the best in that SHR group, but I do like Josh
Yeah,
Berry.
he's still been solid. I couldn't agree more. Briscoe, are you in on Briscoe at all? I see he's 12%. I think I'll be under that.
Yeah, I'd probably honestly rather play Barry just
Yeah, I
because
would too.
a little cheaper and I don't know. I think both are kind of risky actually.
Yeah, Hocevar, I saw his practice times were actually really fast, but start 20th. That scares me. But
It does, but I feel like that Spire team is really taking a step in a sense, and I think they're a top 20 car, so you can lock them in for like 23 points, but
yeah,
you need what do you need? Roughly a 15th or better out of them, and I'm not sure about that.
exactly. So yeah, other than that, I don't think I'm uncheck marking or
I probably would not play Corey LaJoy.
no.
Justin Haley, he's probably going to be like completely unowned, but I think he makes a very interesting GPP play. He had insane practice speed, and he was in Group A too, so he might actually be faster than he looked.
And I tell you what, that top 10 at Darlington, that was a hell of a accomplishment for him. I mean, it's hats off to him. He drove the hell out of that car. And even in the All-Star race, like he was up there battling in the open.
Yeah,
He flat out passed Alex Bowman, and I mean, he was he was wheeling it. So I mean, he's been, I don't know what got into him, but
yeah, and then hit on the fact again that Darlington was the same tires. So
yeah. So I mean, for him to accomplish all that and that equipment is an accomplishment. So I was kind of disappointed because I was kind of like one of them guys where I was like, I hope he finishes or qualifies like 30th or something, because I'd definitely like play a lot of them, but he's qualified 22nd, so I'm not as excited, but I probably will be over the field on him.
I think he's an awesome GPP play.
Yep, absolutely.
So with everybody's got Stenhouse on our minds from last weekend. Are you interested in getting to any of him? Is he in a good spot? What did his practice look like? Any worries that there was some suspensions? Does that matter much when it comes to his crew? Like, is that a big deal? Like, what are we thinking about Stenhouse here?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of brought that up pre-show, and I was kind of like, that's a good point, because this is a one-car team, so they might not have a big pool of guys that they can really pull from. And I think that's kind of tough, because I mean, a lot of this is a rhythm type. Like pit stops are kind of rhythm based, and if you don't have a rhythm with people, it might kind of throw you off. But I mean, Sterling pointed out he does run really good here, so I'll let Sterling pick it up. But
Yeah, he's got 2 7th place finishes in the next gen air, but he's got 19 career starts here with 14 top 20. So he's been very consistent here. I mean, with that being said, I feel like we can lock him in for at least 26 points with our 23 points for 20th there and 3 place differential. But I honestly think he's like a top 15 car. So we're looking at a minimum 35 points out of him. And what is that?
and I mean, another thing, this is the whole other side of the Kyle Busch thing, where like his team kind of fought with him and stuff, and maybe that was a great kumbaya team bonding moment. So maybe they come out
Yeah.
and look better.
Yeah. If he could finish 15th there, he'd be a little over 5x. So
I could see that easily. I think he's a great GPP play.
I actually think he would be a very interesting pivot off for Todd Gilliland.
Yeah.
So you got Logano down here. He won last week. How does that work? Does he win the million, or is that split with his team? Like, how does that work? I don't even know how these payouts work in NASCAR.
I honestly, I can't say that I know that. It's what's weird about NASCAR is they don't ever, like, they'll say a driver like Kyle Busch signed for 3 years, but they don't ever give a money amount. Like, I think a lot of it's like incentive based or performance based. But yeah, I would assume that he would get a big chunk of that. But yeah, I honestly don't know. Do you know?
I have no idea. I can just say that in sprint cars, the driver normally gets like 50% of the winning, so maybe he got $500,000 there.
Yeah, I could see that.
So anybody else in this range we like? I mean, thoughts on Logano? Like, I don't mean to bring it up, but I mean, he's starting 28th. This is a situation where he's expensive, but would you be surprised if he was up there in the top 15 by the end of this race?
I kind of would be, actually, because his practice speed was terrible. He's been terrible here in the next gen car. He wasn't really that great previous of the next gen, but he also said after practice that they were just way off, nowhere near having a good car. So, I mean, it's going to take him the entire race just to get that thing to where they want to be. I don't see him. He's definitely not. I mean, I shouldn't say definitely not going to lead laps, but I will be very fucking shocked if he leads laps. I think he's like a 20th place car.
Now, what's his ownership like? Just out of curiosity, because like him saying all that and everything,
20%.
About 20. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I'm out on him then too, because I was gonna say like him coming out and saying all that, maybe that would like pull everybody off of him. Then at that point, I might say, okay, it's a long race. They got time to make adjustments. Like, let's try to zig where everybody else is zagging. But yeah, 20%. I think I'm out too.
I think the only thing he has going for him is the fact that he's got Paul Wolf, and we know Paul Wolf does some pretty wild pit strategy stuff. So he could end up somehow leading laps just by pit strategy, which I hope does not happen because I'm not playing any of them.
Yeah. Like I said, if it wasn't 20%, I think I would dangle some. But yeah,
I could actually see him being a little more than 20%.
I could too. People are just going to see the name and the price and the starting position. But I did see a lot of that on Twitter where his comments were like, this car won't turn. We're way off. So I was like, well, maybe people will completely be out on him. But
now, if you were to see news that he starts at the rear for adjustments, that could be interesting there because Blaney did show speed. So if they could get switched over to Blaney's setup, which would make them start at the rear, he might be an interesting play then.
Mm-hmm.
So Brad K, feels like we got some opinions on him. 8,700, 30th. What are we doing with Keselowski here?
Good, sir.
I'm not playing him. In the two next gen races, he's finished 19th and 30th. I mean, he's ran fairly decent here throughout his career, but he didn't really show any speed in practice. And right in that price range, you got Busher, you got Ty Gibbs, you got a whole bunch of guys you can play right there in that range. I think he's just going to be an easy click, and I'm going to look at guys around him to get different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I actually didn't know that until I read your write up. I didn't know that he was that terrible because I'd sat there and I thought about it. And I was like, well, 600-mile race, like Brad Case should be up there towards the end. Like you'd think that he'd be one of them drivers that saves his equipment, and like he just always seems like he's smarter and more. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like this race has clicked for him for some reason.
So I think I would honestly rather play like Kyle Busch than BK.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Chris Buescher here at 8,500, starting at basically the back. This feels like another situation where we have a potential free square based on what you guys are kind of saying, right? Thoughts on Buescher? He's had a hell of a few weeks. He's been running pretty good, just some bad breaks for him. What are we doing with Buescher at 8,500? Is this a 80% owned kind of guy for us?
He might be my free square. He might be 100.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like I'm going to be damn close to 100% if I'm not. And he's got 11 career starts here. He's got 7 top 20. So if he can get a top 20, we're looking at a little over 5x, maybe 6x there. But he's got an 8th place finish in the next gen race last season, 26 in the first one, which I'm going to assume something happened there. But he was fast as fuck in practice. But he blew a tire, got sideways, smacked the wall. So he's going to a backup car. I've actually heard some people say they're a little nervous because he's going to a backup car. I want to point out the fact that it's fucking RFK. That backup car is the same car that he had on the track. Do not overthink it. Chris Buescher is a free square.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Who else here in this range? I heard BJ McLeod's name brought up at 5K, starting at the back, 37th. Anybody else? Like, what are your thoughts on McLeod? And is this if you get double the field at 25%? Actually, what is his ownership? Dude, 7. I'm seeing 7 on my end. What are you seeing?
Less than 2, almost 1, actually.
So, look, if you get 15% McLeod, I mean, you're already looking pretty good. You got some decent leverage there. But what are you doing with him?
I don't know. I like BJ McLeod. I don't know if I can go 15. I might be.
I would not be afraid of that. I think you need a punt. And you look down here, you got JJ Yeley. He's in that New York race team.
Yeah.
I don't think that car finishes the race. And if it does, he's probably 10 laps down. You got Ty Dillon and that team. What the fuck's it called now? Amerivet or something?
Something.
I don't think that car finishes the race. And if he does, he's probably 5-10 laps down. Then you got Kaz Gralla. I'm just not a big fan of Kaz Gralla. Daniel Hemrick, I think he starts too far forward. Shane Van Gisbergen, he was fucking terrible in practice. He's going to be 10 laps down.
And the thing is people are going to see that name and play him. I agree with that. I know I'm looking at the ownership right now, and it's like everybody around there is like 3%, and then SVG's 15. And I could completely see that too, because people are going to see that name. I'm out on them.
Yeah, I feel like BJ McLeod's the punt by default.
Yeah. If you wanted to punt, I could see that.
So who we crossing off in this range?
I would cross off Todd Dillon, JJ Yeley. I'm going to cross out SVG. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I would cross out SVG just because of his ownership, and his practice was god awful.
What about Kaz Gralla?
I'm probably going to be with the field on that. I'll probably play a little bit of Kaz Gralla.
Yeah, I would probably rather play him than Daniel Hemrick just because of the starting position.
Now, one thing, Harrison Burton, did he practice good or something? What's up with his? Because he's like 10%.
I would say it's just the simple fact that he's basically a Penske car.
Yeah.
His practice, I don't think was great. Yeah, his practice wasn't
good.
He was basically like maybe a 25th place car, which would be like 22 points or so.
Okay.
24 points.
So basically, it's just a name.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm probably out on him then too.
What about Jimmy Johnson? Out?
I can't do it.
I can't. I mean, you can't disrespect the GOAT, but I can't do it.
All right. Anything else to talk about here? Look, we better just embrace Buescher. Feels like we should embrace Ty Gibbs. Probably more so Buescher, right? Like we're more comfortable with Buescher. But getting to 70% Ty Gibbs is probably in our future as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Who else out of these other guys, who else really jumps out to you as a guy that you're going to be just massively over the field and relatively comfortable with?
I think I'm going to be over the field on Kyle Busch. Anybody stick out to you? And probably Martin Truex Jr., I think. How about you, Sterling? Anybody for you?
I don't know. It's my core is Larson, Gibbs, and Busher, so I'll be over on those guys. But I could see getting over on Hamlin. I could see getting over on Blaney. But other than that, I'm not really looking to. I'm gonna play that 3-player core and play it tight.
So, Sterling, you want to break down this these speedster points? I'm sure you've already mentioned it, but do you want to kind of dive into this deeper here in your article?
Yeah, we'll go over that real quick. It's a 400 lap race, so you'll get 100 points for laps led. Like I said earlier, the next gen races, they've had 83 and 90 caution laps. But if you go back through the previous 8 races that don't include the next gen, they average around 47 caution laps. If you do include those, we're averaging 55 caution laps. So we're looking at roughly 350 green flag laps, which is going to give us around 155, 160 points for fastest laps led. So we're looking at a total of like 250 to 260 speedster points. And looking back at the optimal lineups, I think we're going to look for one main speedster and then like 2 secondary and then like a 4th partial type dominator there. So we're looking for 4 guys that can get fastest laps or laps led.
So let's go over briefly over the cores and the values. We obviously have our fade that we'll get to. We have our crown their ass that we'll get to in a minute. But we got Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs for Sterling. For Ryan, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs. All right, we agree on this. I'm gonna have a ton of these dudes. If Ty Gibbs spins out, in the lap 110. Well, I'm just gonna go watch UFL. That's pretty much how I'm gonna do it.
Sterling just messaged me and said, "What's your core?" I actually did not know that was his core too. I actually didn't look that far into it, so I didn't know that when I made that.
The good sign. Good sign. Yeah. Value wise, BJ McLeod, but we're not talking about 30%. We're talking about 15 or less, and that's probably a pretty good exposure to him. Todd Gilliland for Ryan. We didn't really mention him a ton, did we? What are your thoughts on him as we move on here?
I mean, I always kind of like it. He always seems like a guy that's going to roll the dice and lead some laps and stuff. And for that 65, it looks like DraftKings kind of, I don't know, seems like to me they kind of upped his value a little bit. But
he was, I want to say, they had 14th in green flag speed for Darlington.
Yeah, and he ran really good in Darlington.
He's been coming on strong, so
yeah,
I love Todd Gilliland at 6,500, starting 34th,
35th. Yeah, that's what I feel like he is the Corey LaJoie of last year. That like just seems like that's the punt, or not the punt, but the value like week in and week out. Like DraftKings, like I said, it seems like I feel like they've upped the value or upped the price on him a little bit. But
what's his ownership? 11% is what I'm seeing.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely be over that. I don't want to say 30 or 40 or anything crazy, but I'll probably have 20, 25.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our crown their ass here. Let's do it.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Sterling, you're going Larson. Ryan, you're going Gibbs. Sorry, Ty Gibbs, if you're watching this, I had to use a photo of you as a preteen or whatever that is. I mean, it kind of still looks like him, but anyways,
that's probably him last week.
Anyways, anything else to add here, man? This feels like we have our core of dudes, and these guys are probably interchangeable almost. You'd have to think, right?
Yeah, that's probably it. I'm gonna have the core and then just a little pool of drivers and just basically make lineups out of that.
Yeah, pretty much. Gonna be heavy on Larson for sure. He was fast as fuck.
Yeah, and Ty Gibbs, like I said before, he just impressed the hell out of me in Darlington. We sat here in the Darlington show, and I was like, "There's no way Ty Gibbs holds that spot," and he did. He looked good, so I think I've got to roll with him this week.
All right.
Riding that momentum.
Let's go on to our fades.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Hamlin and Brad K. So Ryan, you really gonna uncheck Hamlin, or are you gonna be like 5% or less, or are you gonna play him in cash? Like, what's your strategy here? Are you just saying screw it, Hamlin ain't doing shit today?
So basically, when I was looking at it, me and Sterling were looking at it. We were talking, and because I when I do the fade, I wanted to do like somebody that was kind of higher owned, and I was looking at ownership, and really the only one that really stuck out to me was Hamlin, and that's just for the simple fact that like I just love everybody else around him. So I think I'm going to be way under the 30. I don't want to say that I'm going to full fade him, but yeah, I mean, as far as the guys with high ownership, there just wasn't another guy that stuck out other than Sterling's guy and Brad K. And I'll let him talk about Brad K. But yeah, so that's just the only reason I'll be under the field. But I love Larson. Like we talked about, Ryan Blaney has one here in the past, and he runs good in cold weather. William Byron was fast in practice. Reddick I like. Truex I like. So it's just like everybody else in that range I like. So I'll probably steer more of them than Hamlin. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're crazy for fading Hamlin. Like,
I
he's
know.
probably going to be in my main build, actually. But as far as Brad K goes, that's just strictly an ownership thing for me. I'm seeing him over 40, almost 44 here. I wouldn't be surprised if he's right there around 45, 50% owned. And I mean, I just think there's better plays. You got Chris Buescher, 200 cheaper, going to be owned probably a little bit more, but he's just got a higher ceiling. I think Buescher can get up there and actually lead some of this race towards the end of it. But as far as Brad K, he hasn't been great here. His next gen races are, I want to say 19th last season. 19th last season and 30th the season before. I don't want to play Brad K at 45% owned.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right, let's jump to some lineup builds here. So make sure you guys throw us a like. We appreciate it. Get us to 30 likes for this video. Obviously, jump into that Discord if you guys have questions. These guys are always available at the Dynasty DNA Discord. That link is down below in the description. And while you're at it, you might as well jump in the Edge DFS Discord while you're at it. If you're playing UFL, that is a poppin' channel there as far as that UFL room. Let's do a cash build first. What do you guys think about that? Let's build like as chalky and safe as we possibly can. Cash sort of single entry build. It feels like we got to go Gibbs right off the bat, and we got to go Buescher right off the bat.
Yep.
Where are you at, Buescher?
I almost think those are the two free spots, I think, for cash.
And it feels honestly, it feels like they're free spots for GPPs as well. We just get different in other ways. Yeah. Correct?
Yep. I believe so. And
obviously, if you're tuning in and, when we say free squares, like this is NASCAR, anything can happen. This isn't the NBA, so obviously it's a risk if you're doing, if you're going heavy across the board, but that's part of NASCAR here. So where are we going next here for cash? Is this a Larson situation? We want to grab some more value, but I mean, it looks like we got an $8,300 guy and an $8,500 guy. That's a good way to start. So we gotta go heavy with one of these. Is this a Larson situation for cash as well?
Yeah, I think so. Do you think so, Sterling?
Yeah.
I like that.
All right, who else here? As far as ownership goes, now there is obviously a situation where you can hedge a little bit. If I'm doing a single entry today and I'm completely fading Brad K, maybe I consider putting him in my single entry. Is that a route you're going to take, or are you just completely out across the board?
I think I'm out completely across the board. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I ain't going to have any of them.
All right, so Kyle Busch, where are we going here? It feels like there's a lot of options. Who else is massively owned that we might feel comfortable just throwing in this cashy build?
What about
Chase Elliott?
What about Eric Jones? Eric Jones at 27%.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. He had pretty decent speed in practice too, and he's been decent here in his career.
Okay.
So roster construction wise, feels like we need another dude, one more dude in this top 12. You'd have to think, right? I mean, this is a Chase Elliott situation. We're not going Reddick here. Obviously, we're going to play him a little bit more in GPPs. Hamlin, Byron, like, what are we doing here? Truex, it feels like Truex is probably not a cash play, but maybe.
Boy, that is tough. I feel like maybe you do go Hamlin in a cash, or
We go Hamlin. We got to take out Jones.
oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So yeah, let's take out Jones. So let's go Hamlin. So let's go to the bottom here. Do we go? Let's go. Gillen, you said 65. What about BJ McLeod? Then that gives us 65 to go. So basically, that'd be a double punt, kinda. I don't know if I want to do that in cash.
To be honest, that's my placeholder.
For cash, is 2 punts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I consider Galen a punt this week.
No. Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. He's like a value play that's not really a punt this week because I think he can get to the top 25 easy. So yeah, I don't mind that.
We'd have to massage this a little bit more. I mean, we're just building, in 2-3 minutes here. But Gibbs, Busher, Larson, Hamlin, McLeod, Gilliland, sort of a punt was McLeod there, but he's so damn cheap that it allows you to get Larson and Hamlin. I mean, that's a solid 4 right there. Gibbs, Busher, Larson, Hamlin. I mean,
very solid.
And if you don't get McLeod, you're not going to be able to pull that off. So it almost makes it worth it. Even if he gets you less than 30 points, it might work for a cash build. Let's do some GPP stuff here. So let's just start. Let's start with Gibbs. Let's start with Busher. I think that's just going to be our general core, as well as potentially Larson. Where are you at, Busher? There he is. Do we want to just go with Larson here as well and
Let's do it.
So what do you think about Reddick right off the bat? Let's just talk about that. This feels like a Reddick. This feels like a Truex. This feels like we can go Elliott, Bell. Can we afford it though? I think we probably could. But yeah, do you want to find value first?
Yeah. Let's try and see where we go. So Reddick, that would leave us 6,200 for 2 players or 2 drivers. So if you went BJ McLeod, and that would leave you 75.
Eric Jones?
Yeah, that'd be like an Eric Jones, Noah Gregson. Noah Gregson only has to finish 12, I saw, for 6X.
What did he look like?
Yeah, what did he look like? Because that's another guy that's just been on fire.
He was pretty decent. Kind of all over the place, really. I'd say he's like top 15 car.
Yeah, I think on that King Sheets, I think he had to finish 12th is all he had to finish. So that's what made me a little bit higher, I think, on him. Sterling's going to do the math here real quick.
You got Barry down here. Feels like just by throwing in McLeod, man, we have so many freaking options.
Oh, we do.
I'm seeing fucking McLeod around like 1% owned. I honestly think he comes in closer to 10, maybe even a little more. But I wouldn't be surprised if I have McLeod in pretty much every lineup.
Okay.
And how many lineups are you doing, just for context?
Probably 20. Like, I'm gonna have a main build and then probably 20 in the 15.
Got it.
So what do you think for the last driver here for 7,500?
For 75, it's tough for me. It's either Gregson or Jones. Jones is obviously safer, but I think Gregson might have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm thinking.
If you're hand building, enter both of these lineups. One with Gregson, one with Jones, one with Barry, mix it up. So speaking of this, we max out salary here. I didn't actually look on your previous the previous results here from this, but what are we comfortable with salary wise? Is this a situation where DraftKings is pretty efficient. We should probably just try to max out salary and get different in other ways. Or what are your thoughts on salary cap here?
I wouldn't leave more than 1,000. I can see a lot of my builds were spending pretty much all of their salary there, so probably like 49.5 or more.
Got it.
I'd stretch it to 1,000, but I think most will be within 49.5.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's do. So let's pull out Reddick. So we got Gibbs, Busher, Larson. You want to go Truex? You want to go Chase Elliott? You want to go Christopher Bell? William Byron? Like, it feels like we could probably get to another relatively expensive dude here, but we're gonna have to embrace a lot of BJ McLeod.
Let's
We do something with Truex yet?
No, we haven't. Yeah, let's try Truex.
Let's go complete. We're doing a GPP here, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get Hamlin, Larson, and Truex.
Yeah.
It's a fucking.
So pull out Gibbs.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he's saying pull out, I think, everybody. So it's just the three: Hamlin, Larson, Truex. So that leaves you 6,200 per player, which definitely could be done.
Throw Cloud in there, leaves you 69.
Throw McLeod in, leaves you 69. Yeah, I mean, right there, you could go like a Stenhouse.
Oh, you could go Jones, Stenhouse,
Yeah.
Jones, Gillen.
Yeah, I like that.
That's actually really not bad.
No, that's a great exercise there.
So if you
I
wanted
would never
to,
thought of that.
so if you wanted to build a couple lineups without Busher, without Gibbs, this probably is the way to go. It feels like you get a lot of options by not doing that. I don't know how much I'm going to do that, but maybe I need to reserve a handful of lineups for without those guys. And obviously, if I'm doing 70-80%, I'm just going to end up with some without both of them. But maybe I'm going to go out of my way to get a couple of builds like this. You want to build one more lineup here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, you want to get weird with it? Do we want to go back to our core? It feels like we already kind of know how that's going to roll. We got to go way low on the value there, and then we'll get a mid-range guy like Eric Jones or whatever. Do you want to? We haven't got any Chase Elliott. We haven't got any Christopher Bell. Is that something you want to try to prioritize maybe for this build?
Let's try Chase Elliott. I'm I think completely out on Christopher Bell, but I will try some Chase Elliott, and let's try some Kyle Busch too. We haven't played any Kyle Busch yet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you did mention no Bell for you. All right, so are we going Busher and Gibbs here, or just one of those two?
I mean, let's start off both of them because they're cheap enough.
Well, this is an interesting one right off the bat. Yeah, we can go all mid-range guys, or you could go with the top and go. You want to go real crazy and go like a Ryan Blaney?
I would not mind that, actually. That's one of the guys I was thinking when we were deciding how to get different or whatever.
And then, so then that leaves us 5,600. So then you can choose your quote unquote punt back there. You can,
Wait, who did I miss? I've got Gibbs, Busch, Busher, and Blaney. Do we want Larson in here instead of Busch?
What do we got? Blaney, Busher, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs.
Oh, Chase Elliott. My bad.
Oh yeah. Yep, you're good.
56. So we're just going right down back to our boy McLeod.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. So yeah, that's I actually kind of like that, and that's kind of an off the wall. There's probably not many people playing that lineup.
No.
All right, what'd you learn, guys? Feels like we have a solid core here of dudes we're comfortable getting way up there in exposure. The key is, you get those 3 spots right or those 2 spots right. You go heavy on those guys, and then you just hope that you get those other couple spots right with enough combinations. So what'd you guys learn after building and messing around? I know you guys have been deep into this all week, going into the weekend. Anything new come out to you as we start to build and talk?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's kind of crazy how with the place differential and stuff, like how different ways you can go. Like we just went all pretty much place differential one time, and then kind of went dominator another time, and
Yeah, that's
you can go all mid-range guys. You can
might play around with the mini max more than I anticipated because I want a lot more lineups now.
yeah.
That mini max is decent. I think it's 25K total prize pool. So I always feel like those 20 maxes and the mini maxes, especially that $4 20 max with 20K up top, is the best. The those $4 20 maxes in almost every sport is like one of the best contests. You have that high upside. Yeah. It's $60 to get in. You know, it's not a huge deal. I'm into that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else to add? What's your bold prediction? Who wins this race in your opinion? Bold prediction and who's one guy you think is just going to absolutely crash out or just have a bad day?
I think Truex will. I think be there at the end.
I'm going to say Larson wins it.
Larson wins it. Do you think they get the 500 in?
I don't think, no.
You don't think? I hope so. I hope they do. I mean, not. I hope they don't. I mean, so.
I suck at math too. I'm sure somebody in the comments is saying it's $80, not $60. But anyways, we appreciate you guys. Throw us a like. We'll be back. What's next week? What's on the schedule for next week?
What is next week?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because I want to hit real quick. Trucks and Cup are at Gateway, but the Xfinity Series is at Portland, and Josh Bilicki is making his debut for Joe Gibbs Racing in Xfinity. Josh Bilicki is a road course stud. He's never been in that type of equipment, so if you're in a state that you can bet, I would be looking around for Josh Bilicki odds as soon as you can next week.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.
See ya.